Okay, so today is July 18th, 2021, and we're going to continue our discussion on the Desiderata Extinctionati. And our agenda for today, it looks like we'd like to discuss about our meeting with Faulty. Is that correct? And we have a few suggestions from Gary. So how would you like to start this?
We have to deal with Faulty. I don't think my suggestion was very interesting, so we might have to pass on that. Just unless Hugh wants to go into it.
What was it? Sorry, I can't remember what it was.
It was about the eternal battle between the shaman and the priests, which I had put in different words as a result of that video. The two things that what you had with the LaRouche discussion, and they talked about something that alerted me to this sort of long-running battle throughout history between the mystics and alchemists and on one side, and the sort of reptilians on the other side. And then in that that was in the farm podcast, and in the LaRouche discussion, they seemed to touch on the similar thing, which was this sort of globalist agenda was trying to sabotage the form, trying to stop nation states from forming peaceful alliances. I'm not explaining that very well, but I somehow felt that they were the same. At some basic level, it was the same battle going on. But anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
You want to deal with Faulty? We'll get rid of Faulty first.
I don't know. Oh, was that a suggestion related to Faulty?
No, that's not related to Faulty. No, it's not related to Faulty. So we should do that first to get it out of the way. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not explaining it very well.
Yeah, I agree. We could talk about
Faulty. Or maybe we should get back to Faulty when we've burnt a bit more real here.
I was thinking about what Gary said there and about his suggestions there for today. Is that, you know, there's so much intense, rich material on this sub, like videos that you post, mostly you, but it goes in so many directions that we nearly need a talk after each post. Because a week goes by and then we've got this amazing thing and this amazing thing, and it's just nearly impossible to keep track of all this fireworks of things, you know. But yeah, Faulty, let's see. I was thinking for Faulty, what I suggested is that we needed to see about, you know, the last time you coached us, and want to know a little bit what direction we're going there for the next, you know, line of attack.
Well, I don't know, to be honest, for the next one. So we have to answer the questions that he asked, and I think I mentioned what I was going to say to those things. But you know, he's asking, you know, well, who makes those decisions, and who's just, you know, that was one of the questions. And, you know, what's the decision-making process? And I'm saying, like, well, what I want to say is that, like, it's him. He's the cult leader. It works kind of like a general. we can all be influencers, we can all give him counsel, we can all rail and moan and swear before the decision is made. But like a general in an army, at some point, he gives his decision, then everybody has to, drop their ego and try and make his decision work. And no matter if it seems completely stupid to you, it just means you have to work harder to make it work. But you don't do the egotistical thing and then saying, like, I don't agree with this, and then you have to say that he's absolutely the decision maker, and then everybody else, at most we advisors or the power behind the throne or sort of eminence Greece or something. But we're just influencers. Everybody would be a team of influencers, including us. But he's the absolute decision maker. That's the one thing that the left can't do, and they come up with all this nonsense about, well, we can't have leaders because they just take out the leaders. Well, this is the point of an ARG, is that you absolutely squeaky clean. They can't take out the leader because the leader hasn't done anything wrong. And if you get famous enough and they do take out the leader, that could be the end of them. So there's protection in the fact that, one of the reasons why Faulty is perfect for this is he seems to me, I hope I'm not wrong, but he seems to me to be a very squeaky clean guy without many skeletons in the closet, hopefully. And so he's a very pure soul, and so he's perfect for this, because you don't get many pure souls in this very dirty game. I mean, just look at the activists around him. All of them are tainted. They've taken money from places they shouldn't. They're not very saintly, and he's kind of like a martyr figure. So he's perfect for this. And then he's got the advantage of being in one country that he can use as a safe base, and then focus on operations in another country. And so he's got the benefit of a national boundary. And so it seems to work wonderfully from what I can see. And then, the other question, has anybody got any comments on that question?
Yes, sure, if you don't mind. One of the articles that you linked to, and I can't find the name of it now, it did a kind of a detailed exploration of Gail Bradbrook's background. It was in a few different parts. And I had a quick look, but it didn't look as though the person who had done that had done an exploration into Faulty. Do you know if that was done or not?
So is that Corey Morningstar?
No, Corey Morningstar was mentioned in that article as having done Greta Thunberg, the thing on Greta Thunberg. But I think it was in the Unlimited Hangout or Nowhere News from Nowhere or something.
Yeah.
And it the part 2 of it, I think, or another part of it, the one you linked, was all about Gail Bradbrook's background. And I was curious to see if there was any similar thing being done for Faulty, but it wasn't immediately obvious.
Never seen it. Never seen it, and I believe that it hasn't been done because it's not possible to do it. If you look at the hit from Desiderata, when Desiderata did that, very sneaky hit job on him, and basically got him kicked out of Germany, which was obviously what it was intended to do. The
Germany?
fact that they did, Desiderata. I mean, Desiderata. It means the time, right? It's like, TikTok man virtually came and basically kicked out Mr. Chaos is what happened there. So anyway, the Harlequin went to Germany, and then basically the TikTok man got his number. And the fact that the TikTok man had to do that setup, to basically just have to get some, they just so obviously led him towards a landmine and then used it. And then obviously the plants in that neck of the woods in the movement itself that carried through. So just the flavor of that means that if they had to sink that low to make a hit, it means that he must be really squeaky clean. Because it's so much easier for them to, just find the odd, choir boy with a sore ass or some rape victim woman or, sexual abuse in the movement or drugs and like they must have come up with a blank on that to actually stoop so low. So I took it as a very good sign. But anyway, what it means is, I think, that kind of personality is bulletproof. I mean, how many politicians do you know that could pass scrutiny? You can't make it in politics unless you're a scumbag. I mean, I mean, literally, it's like to be in the in crowd, you have to be a scoundrel. They won't invite you to their parties unless you are kind of a shit like them. So no politician can make it. It's like you get somebody like AOC and stuff, and yeah, sure, she's but like she ain't gonna last, squeaky clean, not a chance.
Now, what about the trip?
Well, I mean, I think we just have to feel our way towards that because, I feel like there's such a lot to teach him just about the whole ethos, the landscape, the opportunity now with the Great Reset and such a clearly defined enemy as the transhumanists, and it's just a perfect time, but it's going to take a while to educate him on all of that kind of stuff. It goes kind of deep, doesn't it? So
yeah, should Thursday, would you, I know you're going to probably reiterate your invitation, so that would be part of the talk too, to try to entice him and to make the trip.
I'll try, but I still think that he's got to be in his comfort zone, and he has to lead. We just have to keep on, being the blushing damsel and stuff. And
should we remain as silent as we were the first time? Because I mean, I don't know.
Well, this is not quite the same thing.
Yeah.
We've kind of made the sale already.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of in a different regime now, but I'm not really sure what regime we're in. Well, okay, I think what we're doing now is we just, warming up, right?
He did. Yeah. I recall that he said something towards the end of that last discussion that nobody else had a chance to say anything or something like that, as though he was expecting us to be. Well, I mean, I suppose because obviously all of the other calls that he participates in, everybody would want to be asking him a question or jumping in, so we might have looked a bit unusual by saying nothing.
Oh, so what about this then? Do you feel comfortable in leading now? Everybody just leads and pitches in. Do you think that would work?
No, I do, certainly not. I could have a question.
I think there's too much chance. I think there's too much chance we'll stuff up your grand plan. With the best of intentions and inadvertently, Hugh is probably going to be throwing up his hands in horror.
What if we raise our hand? My training from grade school. Raise our hand and then type a comment in the chat, and then if it's worthy of presenting to Faulty, Lord Hugh can read it. Or
well, I think you should just raise your hand and not type it in because my problem is that having a look at it's
distracting.
It kind of breaks the conversation because you have to go to the comments, and then I haven't got my glasses on, so I have to read it real close and go, okay, yeah, I got to get back to the conversation. So it would be much better if you raised your hand and spoke.
Yeah.
I wonder if that kind of, you think, freaked him out, that we were all just silent, except for Lord Hugh?
It might have, yeah. We should
liven up. Is it going to be recorded or not?
Yeah.
So because the first.
Oh.
No.
No, right?
Is it recorded or
No,
not?
we
Okay.
not recorded. No.
Yeah.
So
So
we take
yeah,
notes.
so
So we take minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I think at this stage really we have to just allow him to do an inspection. So he's got to feel comfortable, walk around, poke around. Yeah, I think we're just taking him around the car lot and showing him the upholstery and stuff, right?
The best of it.
Yeah, but I mean, the
It's all good.
essence.
In this showroom, there's only fucking Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis. And I mean green ones, but
Yeah.
what were you saying, Gary?
I think a lot of what we're on about is rather fundamental stuff that can be a bit shocking for people to just confront directly. I mean, the two things I think which stand out are the kind of spiritual thing, the this whole idea of the alien cortex dominated individual and society, and also the other big idea is this idea of what we're ultimately looking at, which is to bring down global industrial civilization, to leave a bit of a chance for whatever's left to carry on. I mean, they're the bottom lines. And
Yeah.
how is it a bit of a risk just to sort of dump that in his lap, or do you have to
No, it's a
to
huge risk. I don't think we can go there because
mm,
yeah, I think basically it needs a bit of distillation to come to that conclusion. I mean that's one of the reasons why I would like a bit of a little take him off and to sell him the timeshare kind of thing because it's quite a big thing to swallow, and I could do with some help from people like Derek Jensen and Leah Keith and people that might explain it to him, Max Wilbert and stuff, and say, like he needs. I don't think he hears those voices. I don't think those voices exist in Britain because there's not enough wilderness left, and so I think nature's pretty far removed from Britain.
Max
I
gave
mean,
us,
when you
Max
say
gave
all the naturalists I see, there's like, oh, they're all going to save the new forest from the Newbury bypass and stuff, and it's all about badgers and stuff, and it's like, no, it's not quite what we're talking about. Yeah, it's like kind of like saving the oceans, and it's but anyway, I don't think we even really need to go there because one of the things that I want to try and convince him of is that, the whole problem of what the movement is trying to do is too abstract. So it's like Naomi Klein and that says, it's like the polar bears just don't do it for me. And that's true about most people. But the weird thing is, and the value of a cult is, that people will do anything for the cult. So the cult's aims might be something abstract and quite cerebral, quite intellectual, like climate change. But not many people get a visceral reaction from climate change, especially in Britain. I can see that it's all rather abstract. But you can see people in the movement, right? Dealing with people in the movement. You can see they will do anything for the movement itself. They almost don't care. It's almost like climate change is just an excuse. Half of them don't believe in climate change before 2100. The movement itself is a cult. And that's the point of a cult, is that if you want to do something like get 300 arrests or 3,000 arrests or something like that, people will do it for the cult, for the movement, for their comrades. They will do it. Not many people will do it. You will never get 3,000 people together for the polar bears. It's just not going to happen. Because the polar bears they only see them in National Geographic things, somewhere behind David Attenborough's shoulder. And so all you're dealing with there is the mammalian brain, and all you've got is cute, and cute disappears as soon as the picture of the polar bear's gone. So when you're sitting in the fucking road facing a police line, there's no polar bears there, and your mammalian brain is completely switched off. So they have to do a lot of, singing mammalian brain stuff. But it's like you've got to get past all that and say, you can't have an abstract goal. You've got to just say, make a cult. Then as the cult leader, you can make them do anything. They're virtually Manchurian candidates.
But I think that, by the way, Faulty seems to me quite a sensitive and, as you said, a kind of charismatic type of guy. Max Gilbert had agreed to meet with him at some stage. So maybe at some stage of the interview on Thursday, we could ask him, would he be interested in talking with an activist who is really American, and who might give us an idea of how things work out there, sort of present it that way, because it wouldn't be difficult, I'd say, to organize it with Max once we could set a date. It can be a follow-up of our meeting.
I kind of see it as a whole curriculum. So I see it's kind of like, educating Rita or doing, Pygmalion. And so we line everybody up for each one of these classes. So the people I've been talking to, even this new guy, Alan, and the, Lionel Snell and all of these guys are just, I see them as, I'm kind of grooming them on the assumption that they can fill in, one subject in the curriculum. But to go from a lifetime of complete horseshit, complete garbage in terms of activism, and just throw it out, it's going to take a little while to get to that point. I think we can get to that point, but then we're going to have to start from scratch and just slowly reimagine a new world, and it's going to take time. And so we need to sell that idea that it's worth it. But yeah, I can definitely see me losing my cool about this current campaign in the autumn, which is just so insane. I'm speechless. Yeah.
Hugh, he's also got a major task. Even supposing he swallows you hook, line, and sinker, he's got to go back and deal with all the people that he's associating with, and do the same thing with them.
And that's one of the things we need to talk about. But you see, there's so many sacred cows to shoot down in left-wing activism, and these guys will not admit that they've been utterly useless for the last 50 years. They've been utterly useless, utterly ineffective. And so they have to give up, but they won't give up on all these sacred cows. One of the sacred cows is its numbers. We need to appeal to people. We need, the big battalions on our side. And you're saying, no, that's completely wrong. Any strategist, from Sun Tzu to Clausewitz, will tell you that it's quality. You have to start with a small cadre of quality, and that becomes the seed crystal that you can grow. If you have the core that's solid, the numbers come easy. So all these people, if you have a look at the, Gene Sharp, and that's all about Erica Chenoweth, 3.5%, all of this stuff. It's horseshit, absolute horseshit. Look what happened with the Arab Spring, where they followed Gene Sharp's thing to the law, to the letter of the law. And what happened was, the more organized, smaller kernel of radicals, normally Islamic, they took over. So basically you had your Velvet Revolution, and then Gene Sharp's crowd didn't know what to do after that. There was no formula after that. The formula is, well, then you have a liberal democracy. The IMF comes in and makes you, starts raping your country and giving you debt. And that's Gene Sharp's aim. That was the State Department's aim. It's basically you get rid of the dictator, you put a liberal democracy in, you get the country completely in debt, and then it's colonized. And Gene Sharp was an instrument for doing that, and it backfired in the Arab Spring, because there were Islamic fundamentalists that were organized, prepared, and they were ready. And as soon as the dirty work was done by all the non-violent action, they swept in and took hold of the instruments of power. So they took the institutions very quickly. And so if the left ever gets anywhere, they don't have a command structure. They don't have any way. They're not prepared to take over institutions and hold them.
Well, I think we hold on to this example for our conversation of Thursday, because that would be, we're not going to turn not a liberal, but nearly into an anarchist overnight, but these sort of things, he doesn't hear that sort of thing. Faulty does not.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important.
That's it. They're in this echo chamber where they tell each other all this non-violent stuff is like, oh, violence never works, and horseshit, absolute lies. You can show it again and again that it's crap. You couldn't, it's not worth flushing down the toilet with this crap that goes on in these circles and stuff. And so it's basically, but the good thing is that Faulty is at the point where he's desperate. He realizes all this shit doesn't work. And so we have to show him the new way. But the new way is, the cult. He's in charge. He's a cult leader, and we can explain how to do all that. Then the other thing the other question he asked is who basically does the game plans and designs the game and stuff. And so thinking that we try and get all these people, that did, the Latitude Society and, did the Megastore and stuff like that. There's so many of these art groups, Meow Wolf and stuff like that. There's so many potential people. I mean, there's a sub on Reddit called ARG writers, and they're people writing ARGs. And anybody that writes an ARG is normally an artist, writer, creative type, and those people are automatically on the left wing. So it's just basically recruiting those guys to design their game. But
I think he was very interested in
puppet master.
I think by what he said the last time in his reply, I think he's very taken by the idea of ARG, and I think he's like a lot of people, like myself, like a lot of people who don't know about them are going to be intrigued, and it will be very interesting to answer his questions on that. I think he's taken by the idea.
Yeah.
I think that was something. It's funny, like
I do too, because he's desperate, right?
Yeah. Mm.
Hugh, I think I'm just thinking at some stage you're probably going to have to, it seems obvious just from my slender little view that he's spending an enormous amount of time and he's organizing and going around the place and all the rest of it. At some stage he's going to have to stop wasting his time doing that and put that time into what we're talking about. And I think it could be worth suggesting that to him at some stage, that if he really is interested in this and wants it to work, he's really going to have to devote himself to it for quite some time. And it's going to mean leaving all those things that currently define his existence. I think he's very immersed. You can even see that the time delay to get the second meeting with him. And in that time, you get that video like the one he had on a few days ago, where he's sitting in Hampton Heath there, reading something out. And I'm looking at that video of him sitting there and thinking, like, you're wasting your... Roger, this is frivolous. It's ridiculous. You're just sitting there reading some fucking litany of doom and wasting your abilities and time, which we don't have much of. He's got to have a turnaround in where he's investing his his time. I think it just looks to me that he's a valuable person that's just been thrown away.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what we should set as the goal for the meeting, to convince him of that he needs to get out of the echo chamber. And so that's the thing that I was saying about getting over this numbers thing. It's also implied that let's get something started and then bring on people as necessary, not lead with the existing people that he's surrounded with, because the existing people are, it's very much, new wine into old wineskins. And so, forget the old wineskins, maybe bring them on later when you understand this and you've got something established, so that they have to fit in. Because I think it's not really going to work if you bring all these people that bring all their baggage. And I can see that there are people there that they have poison. They're absolutely poison to the movement, because they're nostalgic for things like freedom riders and stuff. The old guard, the elders of the failed left, are absolutely poisonous, because their heads filled with this romanticism, all these echoes for we shall overcome, and all these romantic ideals that they want to recreate this past era. And those old glories are gone. We're in the digital age. We're about to be digitized out of crap by Klaus Schwab.
I think that's what he wants to hear.
It doesn't work in the online world.
I think he wants to hear that. He wants to hear what you're saying, Hugh, about the old guard, the toxicity of this attitude. And in those circles that he's around, it's quite popular that people go on retreats and sort of get away, and that's maybe could be brought on by, maybe you want to withdraw from and just question the strategy, and what would be better for that than to just go with people who are totally just go on a boat, for example, or and just
basically that's your ayahuasca trip. Yeah, that's your ayahuasca trip right there. It's like I think that's what we need to sell, is an idea, the thing that that's always been what we've been trying to say. It's time for a big reset of our own, and a great reset of our own. And he knows that. He's right for it. He's said so many times that all the old stuff doesn't work. We've got to think entirely new. He says that at the beginning of every video, and then launches into the old stuff again. It's like, what's wrong with this broken record? You just said it doesn't work, and then you go straight back to it like a dog to its shit. Just like a dog to its own stick.
Maybe that should be pointed out to him. Maybe he doesn't realize that he is just regurgitating old tactics that don't work, despite his theoretical knowledge that, or his factual observation. It's not working. And the other thing too is, in the interview, he admitted that it was like he was like his decision, like it was a decision of the other co-founder not to go a different way, something like that. Like he was overvoted, or I don't know what the word would be.
Yeah, and then they all have regrets, including the person that made that decision.
Yeah, but we need to tap into his frustrations.
But the thing is that you just give him. Hang on, like that. Switch the lights on. But I think the thing is that we have a solution, so we can, safely knock down these sacred cows, because we have replacements one for one. It's just a matter of giving the time to understand them. But I mean, there's a definite point where I think people get to where they have an epiphany. They suddenly, oh, now I get it. What this whole thing is. Until then, people are, this ARG concept, and how does it work, and it's baffling and stuff. And at some point you go, oh, I've got it. I finally see how this works. And just communicating the idea that there is this tipping point understanding. It's Well, for example, in the email, there's like, okay, what's the path to action? Like, no, it's you're putting the cart before the horse. You build up the egregore, you build up the cult. You basically, something like, for example, if you wanted 300 arrests, right, or say you wanted 3,000 arrests, you wouldn't build up to that, right? Because it's very fraught with danger trying to build up to the 3,000. Because okay, if you start with 300, you have to, the next iteration has to improve on that. And if you don't improve, it'll fizzle and die. And it's very easy for the opposition to see you coming because you're stepping slowly towards this goal. They're not going to let you do it unopposed, and they're very, very clever. And so, when you start getting your 300, they will start doing everything they can to belittle you, to make it look like this is unsexy, to pull the rug out from under you. So if you go from 300 and the next one is 100, they've won. Because you're not building up something romantic. Everybody would say, well, that show's over. Nobody will get on that bandwagon. So I don't think you can build a bandwagon that way, going from, well, we'll do 300 arrests this time, and then next time we'll get to 1,000. And then when we get to 3.5% of the population, magic happens. It's like, no, that plan will never work.
But
the way it works with the cult is you would build it up. You build the ethos. You build it. If you say your plan is you want 3,000 arrests, I mean, it's a batshit crazy plan, but all right, you're the boss. But then, you would build up to that. You would invent this idea that, oh, there's the day of the storm. And then, people would practice with the day of the storm, and it would become, you would ritualize it and pray to it and make idols to it, and everybody would have the day of the storm. And then, and you'd get to a point where people were like, when's the day of the storm going to come? We've been going over this, and then people get to the point where they're like, we want to go into battle, we want to get arrested, and then finally the government does something irredeemably stupid, which they're going to do, and then you unleash it. But you just basically prepare, and then strike when the moment. But you see, there's other ways. What's the path to action? As if you set the agenda. The left always thought that they set the agenda. No, it's crap battle tactics. It's just utterly inane.
But these 300 arrests have names, have people who will be, if they're arrested, in jail for nothing. We know that. It's not going to do anything. So has anybody pointed to Fawlty that this is, I mean, just can't he see that he's putting some people on the line or in the open instead of on the ground, and that he is going to compromise a lot of...
he's throwing his resources away.
Yeah, they're in denial. You can see that they're out of ammunition. They just basically they're just trying to just do a Hail Mary pass kind of thing. And so they're really just going through the motion. So it's going to go off like a damn squid.
Disregard.
So what it means is they know it underneath.
I think you would understand.
They must know it in their heart of heart.
But I think you would understand that disregard for these people that are going to be encouraged to do useless actions with no consequences, endanger maybe their physical health, maybe their mental health, and maybe their future prospects of whatever they want to do, and waste time and money in Her Majesty's jails and courts. And I mean, for what? And he doesn't. I mean, has anybody ever done the?
That's the point I made. That's the point I was trying to make maybe the last time we had this discussion, was that he's throwing away his resources. I mean, those people who are in prison are no longer any use to him. As well as them being there, that reduces the number of people that he's got who can work with him. So that makes getting your numbers back even harder again. And all of the people who waste money paying fines, all they've got to do is sit for 5 minutes and think, hey, if I go to a protest and get fined £1,000, and I'm fairly certain that that's definitely going to happen, you're better off not going to the protest and giving Fawlty £1,000 to help him get something else going. you know, he's the whole. He's just going in for a kind of a cannon fodder exercise with the thing
Yeah,
that's
this
going on at
this
the moment.
one of the opening lines, I think, in Sun Tzu in Art of War is saying that the first thing is, you know, the bad general seeks out a battle.
Mm.
A good general will try and avoid it. And then the second thing is that the bad general is not parsimonious with the men and troops, with the troops and material. And so, yeah, but basically that's what's happening in this case. It's
That's
basically
what I was
the
thinking.
troops are being thrown in without regard to the
Yeah.
consequences.
That's precisely Sun Tzu that was in my mind when I said that, because it's one of the first one of the first basic things that, you know, a good general will do is just he will care for every one of his men. He will not just waste any.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
but it's also
on
true
the
of
smaller
like,
side, you can't do it.
you know, supposedly the first rule of any rebel is to stay alive. But you know, the second and third rules will be, the second one is, well, don't be in jail, and three is don't waste your any money or resources that you've got, because they've got to go to the cause. And I mean, he's in contradiction of the whole three. It's just.
Yeah,
But I actually wanted to
it's
make
got to
another.
be like it's got to be
I
like Reynard the Fox, right? Reynard the Fox is you're supposed to be, you know, since you it's an asymmetric warfare, and you're the weaker party, then you have to use wit. So we don't have anything on our side in terms of the big battalions or firepower like the wolf. And so, you know, it means you have to be clever like a fox and use the other resources against them. And this is not using the resources. The state can put up any amount of resources to try people. You can't fill up the courts that way. In the past, when people tried to do this with the lollards and the renters and stuff, they just put all 1,000 of them. You just basically put 1,000 of them in the dock and try them all together. You can try them in absentia. They'll put them on Skype and then say, you know, like, well, there are 10,000 people here, and, you know, try them all together, put them in a detention camp. It's like, you're not going to fill up the jails. It's infantile. It's complete misreading of Gandhi and Satyagraha. It's like, you will not fill up the jails. It doesn't work like that. You can put stress on them now because they're underfunded, but like, they'll fix that. If it's just a cost benefit equation. The cost of, you know, putting on more courts and putting on more judges and stuff, there's a cost to that. Well, it just so happens that you didn't actually make an expense that justifies that cost. So they don't make courts bigger. But if you actually make headway and you do cost them, well, then they're going to defray that cost by making the courts fucking extreme and the jails pretty hairy. So, you know, just get over this idea that it's a static target. These guys are going to move, and they're already moving with the police and crimes bill. So the police and crimes bill is going to be out before autumn, and you don't know damn well what's going to happen. They're going to use exemplary justice against the organizers, and they will have the public on their side because it's stupid. It's stupid. Everybody will see it's stupid. You look like an idiot and you'll get what you deserve. And the Sun will have that as a fucking headline. So just think it through, for fuck's sake, guys. This is the stupidest thing known to man. So, basically, scrap the strategy. Basically, the left has to say, whatever they're good at, it's not strategy. So just give up the strategy to somebody that knows what they're fucking doing.
At some stage, all of this is going to have to be communicated to him. And, you know, I'm just one. I mean, it's a terribly risky thing to be doing. You know, this particular discussion we've had now is, you know, at some stage, is it just going to be worth leaking it, sort of, so that he can actually just sit and watch?
That's why I don't mind it being recorded. Yeah, you see, I don't mind it being recorded like this because it's almost advantageous if somebody actually saw it and brought it to his attention. If somebody said, hey, you know, these guys are not on the level, just have a look at this. And then he would watch this and say, oh, no, actually, these guys are on the level. I need to talk to these guys. So, you know, it's kind of bringing it's kind of, we win either.
I just put a comment saying that maybe we shouldn't put this video up before Thursday, before the meeting on Thursday.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the thing is, you know,
I thought
it's
that
not
before
hard
the
to
previous
imagine.
one, but this one, I think, yeah, I think we've made the sale now. So I think if he heard this one, it wouldn't be bad. We're speaking from the heart, and we're saying, you know, I would say what I'm saying now to his face. The only thing I would not say is maybe in the same tone. But in terms of content, I would want all this information conveyed.
Yeah, but we're at the early stage, and I was wondering if it's not, you know, the time.
So
I don't know. Yeah. It's debatable, I suppose.
Yeah, it's very difficult to know, because look what we're looking at. If my analysis is right, and you know, Faulty goes forward for 10 years in jail, just shock treatment, they're very likely to do that, to be absolutely draconian just to send a message. They have a history of it. And so you know, that's what the bill says. They virtually, it's, you know, exemplary punishment to deter people from doing this kind of civil disobedience. So so if that happens, it's a disaster. I don't know, you know, can you imagine the chill? They're setting themselves up. I mean, if I was doing a PSYOPs, right, if I was a state operative doing a PSYOPs, I would set the situation up. I would get hold of Faulty or somebody like him, and I would set him up as an actor, and I'd say, look, we'll give you $1 million. Just you be the fall guy, take a big sentence of 10 years. It'll put a complete chill over everybody. When all of this is passed, you'll get pardoned. But
that's probably what's happening.
This is a setup for a
That's probably what's happening.
Well, I don't think it's happening, because I think that basically Faulty is a straight arrow, right?
Yeah, but what I mean is that there's some other forces in his movement that might be propelling him on the.
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, but
I didn't want to go there.
No, but
one of the reasons why I would say, like, to get the numbers, old wineskins and stuff, is like, you've been infiltrated. He doesn't get it.
Yeah, and
but you can't say that to him. He won't accept it, because. But I tell you, okay, I'll say it here, maybe regret it. But like, whoever came up with that plan in autumn, if anybody from XR is listening, right, and you're on the right side, find out who came up with that suggestion. Look at their background. There's something fucking wrong there. I mean, seriously fucking wrong. See what those people hang out in their spare time. See who their pals are. Have a look where they went to college and where their pals are. But have a look at maybe the gaps in their curriculum and stuff. Because there's something wrong with the cunt that came up with this idea in autumn. Look at them. Look at them.
Yeah, it's like it's funny because Faulty, like, you know, knows a lot of the history, but has he heard of, like, what happened to the Black Panthers? Like, the guys in their group that suggested doing violent action were fucking cops.
Well, the same happened in Seattle. Battle in Seattle is the guys. They were agent provocateurs. All those pictures that now CNN plays on a loop whenever there's any riots in Seattle, they are agent provocateurs. Basically, the guys breaking windows at the Bank of America and that, they found them. They have their badge numbers. It's fucking retarded. But go and have a look at the history of Occupy. These movements, you know. Okay, I mean, for fuck's sake, Gene Sharp started out funded by DARPA. All the stuff he did, the book, you know, From Tyranny to Democracy, or Dictatorship to Democracy, all of that was funded by the fucking State Department. Erica Chenoweth is an agent. She's a freelance agent for this fucking State Department. You took your advice from all these bastards. They work for the IMF, basically. Indirectly, they are agents of the CIA and the IMF. You're an agent of colonialism and oppression. You walked right into it. So anyway, you can't tell that to them because, you know, the pride and stuff gets in the way. But I'm telling you, that's anybody that knows anything knows that they've been compromised.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
right high up too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think he also needs to be aware that the Machiavellianism isn't just at the very top of the hierarchy. It's the middlemen who are just as ruthless and sometimes even worse.
Yeah, the guys are trained, but anyway, the key thing is nonviolence. So they basically, well, it's in that little piece that we had that, you know, how they actually do it, how they train people that, you know, get hold of the idealists and make them into realists, get hold of the realists and put them into the university. All of that strategy is right there in the playbook, but it all has to be nonviolent, because as soon as somebody starts shooting, then it's they'll lose control.
And that strategy is very well described in Mark Boy's book, Drinking Molotov Cocktails with Gandhi. Really, I mean, it's just he's laid out. His book is mostly references. It's really extracts of all sorts of books that he has compiled, you know. But that is just a learning book for anybody who wants to be in a movement or just run, run.
But the thing is, now we have all the solution. We've been working on all the tactics and the way around it, and it's a cult and it's an ARG, and so yeah, it's we can put this together. Okay, so we got roughly how we play it, right? And then we'll play it as faulty leads, and it just, you know, he's just doing an inspection, gets to his comfort zone, and we just answer his questions and maybe lay into the stupidity of water. Is it good enough strategy for? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in addition to the cost benefit factor or cost benefit perspective that you had mentioned, and you've already gone through the warnings of the risks that he's taking if he gets severely punished, and there's a chill on all action now. But just from the common sense thing of what Gary was kind of saying, that from even just from effectiveness, like the return on investment, all the things that they're spending and wasting, just from the common sense of that, why keep doing something that's not producing results?
Yeah, there's also the flaw. I noticed this flaw where there's not proper accounting. One of the things that alarms me is I spent, you know, all the time that I've done developing this ARG, the 80% of that time has been spent on ways to finance it. So it's the financing and all of that kind of thing. And so it alarms me that the gem of this plan, Faulty's not really interested in. It's just, yeah, oh, financing, yeah, that'll come through, you know, GoFundMe and stuff. And say, not in the world that's coming. Now, if there's a financial great reset, and then we have e-currency, if basically it's a cashless society, well, one of the goals of that is to micromanage spending. So you won't even be able to buy a pack of gum that the IRS, all the alphabet soup agencies don't know about. And not only will they be nudging you, but, you know, all the activists as well. You have to kind of imagine them in an Alison McDowell world where they own a UBI, and they're not free to go and then do rabble rousing and then say, oh, well, we can do full-time activism now. We'll sit on a UBI. No, you fucking won't. What they'll do is they'll micromanage every single thing you do. Everything you buy will be done with a nudge. And if you buy, you know, a poster or something like that and just it's not approved, well, then basically you're going to get punished for that. Basically, they will restrict your UBI. They will put you on a personal improvement program, and part of the things where you will have a minder who will essentially be like your parole officer, and they will look, okay, what did you spend your time? Did you spend anything on drugs? Did you spend anything on activism? Did you, you know, buy vegan stuff? Did you do any? And they will look at it and they say, what did you donate to? And you cannot do activism under that tight control, because they will have control over every penny you spend. And any organization that relies on a GoFundMe or something, they'll squeeze out all the participants. And that's the world that's coming. So we spent so long, preparing for this world, and then to just have it brushed off as, oh, I'll auction off ponytails or something like that to pay for it. No, you fucking won't. Not in the world that's coming. So one of the things that I wanted to say was, the left is not good at cost-benefit accounting. So every action must be cost-benefit accounted for in terms of the enemy's cost-benefit and your cost-benefit. And one of the big flaws, I think, on the left is they're a bit too fast and loose with the members' money, the members' time, money, and stuff. Everybody's supposed to pitch in, and you're just supposed to take the hit as a good soldier. Well, it's kind of like, we need arrestees, well, you go and get arrested, and then you get a £6,000 fine. Well, they'll help you a little bit until the fund runs out, and then it's kind of like, yeah, well, you put up the rest. So they're milking the members. They're just fast and loose with the members' time, money, and bodily harm, and that's not going to fly for very long. You're not going to build numbers that way. So it's flawed right to the heart of things. But anyway, we can't get onto this kind of subject in this.
No, but that's tying on to the comment that Gary had put on the meeting for today. If we have exhausted the faulty subject, where he was bringing up the conflict, the problem with transhumanism, and there's been a lot posted about this recently on the sub, and I was wondering if we wouldn't go there a bit, because it's important issue. I don't know, does anybody else want to say something about Thursday? I don't know.
Good luck and thank you.
You're not going to be there?
I have a wage slave commitment.
Okay. Save that money. You're going to need it.
I think the problem with Thursday is if anyone goes too far in what they suggest and we lose him, I want to be able to blame Lord Hugh instead of me. Yeah. Well, I'm just a bit, because sometimes
if that happened, I don't know what I'd really do. I'm kind of giving up on a 2-year project. I think, I'd probably just have to go off and get a real job because the funds are getting a bit low. But what I would do after that is I would try and make hay out of it. I would try and show it all up as saying, like, now do you want to listen? You see, we told you, we fucking told you, and basically, make a big hula about exactly what we said, and then say, now, are you ready to try something new? And then I think a lot of people would say, yeah, this was the dumbest move we've ever seen in our lives. And it might precipitate it might be the success of the scheme by default. We could find somebody else that can pull the role of the cult leader.
That's where there might be. That's where there might be some hope in people that we don't know anything, like that we've been copying the emails to Lynn.
Well,
for instance.
We could get some like crazy ass guy, like what's that guy, Yao Ming? What was that guy? There was this guy who was a very strange guy. He was a Chinese guy, and he kind of says, like, you got to. He was tailor-made to be a cult leader, because he was saying, like, you've got to pick me to like lead the movement, and I'll lead it to victory because I come from a long line of these Chinese ancestors that were basically part of the Boxer Rebellion or something. He was talking to Gal Bradbrook, and of course it didn't go anywhere because everybody was like, it's kind of stalemate. He's saying like, support me and I'll be a great leader, and everybody was like, well, you're not a great leader until you get people to support you. So it was kind of really poor passive.
And remember that I don't see her as a cult leader, but there was a very positive response to the idea of ARG in deep green resistance, and that movement we don't know. Like we haven't gone very far with Pierre on that. We had one interview, and she was very taken. Derek has got Derek is a very pure man too. There's people in America who might be also, if everything goes to shit,
Yeah. I mean, there must be people that are good for the role. In essence, you just need a good actor. It's pure act. It's an act from start to finish. It's just theater.
If only we could have audition. If only we could have auditions. Maybe that will be our next strategy.
That's not as far-fetched as you. It's not as far-fetched as you imagine. So that guy, you see, I really, Spencer McCall and that, I really want to talk to those guys, because I still have not even got past the first layer of that fucking onion. And I know there's a lot in there. But that guy who's, not, what's his name? In Elsewhere, in the Elsewhere ARG, it's Lucius, whatever. The main character, the guy who, you know what I mean?
Lucian. Yeah.
Lucian Freud?
But anyway,
yeah.
No,
Lucian
not
the one in the institute. Is the one that appears first on the television in the institute, and at the end he's kind of becomes a kind of a guru leader. What's his name again?
Yeah,
Octavio Esquire.
Octavio.
Octavio. He had a nice name.
So Octavio Esquire, he is an actor. He's a paid for actor. Now, because he's in some of the stuff that Spencer McCall has done, then I think he was paid for that. So that guy is kind of perfect for the role. You can pay by the hour. But what really interests me is that I think that Octavian guy, what they're hinting at, I think what Spencer is hinting at is that he is actually a real character. I think he is a kind of a spoof of Jeff Hull, in fact. And so I think there's a lot to Jeff Hull, and I think what they're hinting at is that this Octavian character is Jeff Hull. And so I've long suspected that. I would actually like to maybe mention that when you talk to Spencer again.
Yeah, because in the
anyway,
Latitude Society,
it's kind of
that character, that Ox character, was it portrayed Jeff Hull. They clearly showed that there was the Geordie, who was the traveler, and then there was this other paranormal character there too, which was Jeff Hull, supposed to be Jeff Hull.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it proves the kind of point that if you got funding from philanthropists, then you could actually have that role paid for by the hour. You could just basically audition people in Hollywood. In fact, there's so many outward actors in Hollywood that I'm pretty sure you'd get somebody to do it for free.
Yeah. It was Octavio Coleman, and the Lucian, Eva Lucian was the supposed young woman who was gone missing. Eva Lucian. And the name of that fellow who was doing that facilitation session or whatever it was right at the end. I don't know if I wrote that or not.
That's Geordie Aitken.
Is it? Okay, right.
An interview
yeah, that's him. Okay, fine. Yeah.
But I mean, there must be. I mean, in a world of 8 billion people,
Well, see, this
can...
is Lionel's realm of somebody who can come in and pretend to be, you know, that video where he described how he did the cult leader thing, you know, which was really fascinating, actually. So
Yeah, I mean,
he would be a
at
good
the end of
person
the
to
day,
talk.
you need a... Yeah, at the end of the day, you need like an, you know, an Andy Kaufman who kind of can spin the Joker kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good for that topic, isn't it? So
Do you want
yeah,
to
so
go? Do you
the
want to
next
go
one.
on to what? Did you want to go on to the topic I suggested, or is I don't know? You didn't sound very interested in it. Is it worth pursuing, or?
No, I am. No, I just had the thought that we might push the faulty conversation to the end of the
Oh, to
tape
the
so
end of
that
this.
we,
Oh, I
you
see.
know,
Yes,
basically
yes, of
people
course.
just
Yeah,
doing
it's an hour and a
flybys
half.
don't settle on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so
All
but
right, that's
anyway,
a good idea. Yeah.
we've done that section up front. So anybody flying by might come across it, but it's no harm. I think wouldn't hurt if Faulty actually saw it. But so yes, no, I'm terribly interested in this subject. In fact, so there's a closing window of opportunity, and it's the whole world has been lit up by this Klaus Schwab and stuff. It's so, you know, it's too good to be true, almost. So it's so cool to make hay out of, because it's a blunder of gargantuan proportions on the establishment side to be doing this. They have taken a step too far, and with the whole world sort of, you know, pissed off about the 1% and Davos and elitism and conspiracy theories flying, and for them to come out with all this bullshit so arrogantly and stuff, it's like they need a taking down. They like aristocrats in the court of Versailles that are completely detached from reality, and so yeah, one of us is completely detached from reality, either us little guys or they are. I'm not really sure which. I mean, when I see these big super yachts here in Greece, and the like guys getting taken off them on helicopters and stuff, and I start thinking, you know, we're the fucking deluded ones. These guys have got it down pat. And so, like, and then sometimes I think these guys are completely wrong, and they're going to be taken down in the sorriest way that people can imagine. But anyway, one of us is going to be right. I don't think it's going to fall either here or there. It's not going to end amicably.
Well, there's always the sort of ultimate window, which is closing, which is the environmental ecological one, and I mean that's the all this World Economic Forum, Davos, you know, Klaus Schwab thing. It's facing, you know, what they want to do could just be rendered completely impossible in a short time frame. So there's that way of looking at it too, I guess.
Well, yeah. This is the thing that we really need to play on, and that's these guys are so fucking arrogant. I mean, I was just reading Yuval Harari's Homo Deus and stuff, and you know, he's not really a futurologist, but he shares this kind of conceit of how resilient our civilization is, and it's like, what are you talking about, guys? You know, you're a couple of logic bombs or an EMP away from this. That's the end of it. Game over. This society is back to the Stone Age, and like they really think because it's so big and it's so complex and it's the size of Rome, and you know, they say like, you'll never bring down the empire. It's like, are you kidding? I could, you know, you might get some bioterrorists release an agent that takes out rubber, and it's over. No more planes, no more wars, no more anything, no more police truncheons. The world doesn't work with rubber. There's a strategic material, and the same is true with dozens of things. Glass. The whole everything in the United States, in the whole developed industrial world, China, everything, goes to pieces with glass. Well, glass is only one hiccup in the supply chain on LNG. So basically, if you had a week, it's basically every glass plant, basically most of them in China, they have 72 hours of emergency fuel. If they run out of that fuel, that's it. The glass will solidify. Basically, the burners will go out. The burners are under the glass melt. If the burners actually go out, you have to rebuild the fucking factory from the ground up. It would take another 10 years to reconstitute that glass factory. Nothing works without glass. Have a look at a shop store that you're in next time, and imagine all the products that are now packaged in glass are off the shelves. There's no substitute for them. So imagine everything. Imagine windows in cars and tanks and vehicles and submarines. Can you imagine them done without glass? It's just unimaginable world. And it's like 72 hours hiccup in the gas supply chain. And it's all centralized in these fucking gas exchange hubs and stuff. It's just remarkable how these idiots just say, extrapolate the graph, this kind of infantile, sophomoric, this civilization is heading there. China will become a superpower because just extrapolate the graph and by 2050. And it's like, really? That's how shallow your analysis is? It's like, you
could see that.
Terrorists out there to change the story.
But you could see that with that ridiculous thing about getting making latex for the rubber out of dandelion juice, and if you can't grow the rubber, well, that's right. But not only that, you've got to look at it. If you can't fucking grow rubber plants because the ecology's collapsed, then what makes you think you're going to grow dandelions? I mean, they might, obviously pretty resilient little bastards, but they're more or less saying, well, you haven't suddenly stopped relying on the environment to get this rubber. You haven't escaped anything at all. It just
but it's so vulnerable to ecotypes. So the thing is that, you see, anybody that is really organized for ecotypes, and there will be, because there'll be bright guys. It's only the really bright guys that see where this is going, the kind of Uncle Ted types. And those guys are smart enough to not just take out one single point of failure in the system. They can take out the backup to that thing. So, take glass. Well, if you take out the natural gas system somehow, you could do it just with Stuxnet and kind of logic bomb. If you just take the gas facilities with cyber warfare, and then at the same time you go one step more and take out the ceramic industry. So basically, I'll tell you a secret. The glass industry is entirely reliant on ceramics, high temperature ceramics. There are very few companies, like a handful, one or two, literally, that can actually make the ceramics for these things. Because it's a very, very niche world. They basically have molybdenum and a few of these. So it's very artisanal. It's all secret knowledge, and it's done in one or two factories. So if you took out the ceramics thing, that would be the end of it. It would take 5 years to get, maybe 10 years to rebuild those factories. So if you took out glass and then ceramics, you took out the glass, they wouldn't be able to rebuild the glass factories. They'd have to rebuild the factories and the furnaces. Well, if you took out the ceramics, that would be it. They wouldn't be able to rebuild them in 10 years. The world without glass in 10 years, just imagine you wouldn't build another aircraft in 10 years. You wouldn't build another tank, submarine, ship, nothing. They would all be gone. You wouldn't build another test tube. You wouldn't do another vaccination. They're all based on glass. And so, anybody can find that out.
It'd be great for the local glass.
Anybody can find that out. And it's one person, an individual, a lone wolf could do.
Even down to the
there's loads of little, still tiny, in lots of little countries in the world, of people who are still making artisanal glass, and they would be totally delighted to hear a thing like this.
To make the world's glass, yeah.
No,
Look
but
at
they
the
would
richest
say,
bastards in the
"Oh,
world.
we don't care. We continue to make our glass to drink our wine." Yeah.
That
Oh
was
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah. No,
that was an
artisanal
interesting
glass.
point about the.
Glass is a real skill. It's a real.
Oh yeah, but
Artisanal
there's
glass
still
is a
some
real skill.
artisans even here in the south of
Oh
Ireland.
yeah, no,
Got tiny little factories,
no,
little things, family run, you know.
So up in the northwest, in Seattle, you know, Chihuly and all of that is the artisanal glass movement is huge. Up in the northwest, people would be still making artisanal beer and whiskey and putting in an artisanal glass because they're doing it right now. It's the tanks and Boeing that would be in real trouble.
That was an interesting point in
Plate glass.
that little report on the rubber industry, was that it wasn't in the hands of large holders. It was all, you know, most of the suppliers coming from very small plantation holders, just a couple of acres, which I thought that was surprising, that it hadn't been sort of corporatized and amalgamated. But the other thing that was very interesting from the point of view of sort of buggering stuff up is where they said that most of the plants are a bit like the banana plants. They're all clones, and so they're very susceptible to disease and you know. So you could have somebody with a little glass. Well, can't be glass anymore. A little tiny container of something which will infect rubber trees, and that's it. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's just a bioweapons target, but same with pestilence, right? You see, what's this civilization doesn't stand a chance, because if you think of like climate change and deforestation, what's one of the things that happens is you get pest infestations and insect infestations, and the chances of a monocrop like that coming, you know, a pest comes out, and it's happening with everything from frogs to rust on all these wheat and stuff. And so it's, you know, all of these things are vulnerable, from, you know, glyphosate resistant weeds and stuff. They're all resistant because they're all monocultured. They're all resistant to single points of failure. And somebody will introduce them. As soon as enough people realize that, you know, become accelerationists, that's it. The system is going to come down like a house of cards.
The rubber tree that's in Thailand, in the report, are being cloned, and they're monoculture. But the original rubber trees were in the Amazon, and they were scattered. They were not, you know, they had to go deep and take the sap. And, you know, sometimes it was, and there's still some in French Guiana and different places, and they're scattered all around. So yeah, you've got this little niche in Thailand that's going to probably be wiped out due to climate change. And the other it would take years and years again for them to clone and replant trees from the originals in the Amazon. So that is another bottleneck, because
it was very similar to that. You'd have the kind of time delay Hugh was just talking about with the glass. You know, they were saying 7 or 8 years to get a tree, you know, before you could use it for the rubber.
Well, they can make synthetic rubber, right? They can make synthetic rubber, but nothing works. You can only go so far, right? They're like gaskets and things for pipes and engines and stuff like that. There's so many rubber components that can't all be synthetic. And then if there was a big failure in, say, a year's crop, or so, well, no, I guess it's not seasonal there, but if there was a big failure in the crops, they couldn't bring on all the factories online to make synthetic rubber, and then it would alter the, you know, the logistics of the oil market and stuff like that. So it is a house of cards. It's very Byzantine, it's very brittle, it's just in time, it's fragile as anything. And if climate change doesn't do it, ecotourism is going to do it. But the thing is that they know all this, and they're not telling anybody. So the governments are all preparing for this. They all know what's coming. It's all a matter of time. But once you see the evergreen the Evergreen, what's her name, stuck in the Suez Canal from possibly a cyber attack. You can see, you do that and you do this, the Panama Canal at the same time. And it's like, well, that's it. That's the end of the global economy right there.
Yeah, it would be really
It's
ironic.
inconceivable.
It would be really ironic because I heard somebody make a joke about the Evergreen getting stuck in the canal. It's like, yeah, a lot of the stuff with what, the capitalist system sells causes lots of people to die of heart disease. He was talking about how it'd be funny if, like, the capitalist system itself died of a giant cardiac arrest. It'd be ironic if something.
Yeah, it's very analogous, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Well, you see, one of the things is that makes the system vulnerable is nobody understands it. So it's made by a kind of Smith's invisible hand. So in other words, I can't remember who pointed it out, but it says nobody actually knows how to make a pencil, because there's no one person that knows how to do the graphite and get the rubber, and so there's nobody. It's a collaboration. There's like your computer. Nobody knows how to make a computer. There are thousands and thousands of people that know how to put bits together, and then they modular and stuff. But even the guys that designed it don't know how to mine the tritium or stuff like that. And so what it means is that they could get a cascading failure and not understand what's happening. So in other words, the Evergreen could be a kind of butterfly, and then they had like millions of 2 billion, I think, in value in containers. And so you could have a vital shipment in those containers that nobody knew about, that is a sensitive point of failure for a vital system, and it could cascade. It could be like a butterfly that just cascades through the system, and no one would understand it. Nobody would understand the system well enough to know, oh, you know what? It was from this little widget that was on the Evergreen. Basically, it got rotten or something. So for all you know, there was a container full of bananas that went rotten because it was stuck in the canal. And you didn't know that bananas were vital to making, all the strategic military components.
I think there's a lot of people who know about those things, and I think there's a lot of people who we don't hear from, who are probably studying all these bottlenecks. And I'm not sure they're listening, but be nice.
Well, the fantastic thing is that a lot of them are state actors. So the most amount of study being done for this kind of thing is in the military, but they don't study their own. No, well, they do kind of, but they do kind of assessments. So risk assessment. Well, like if there was a high altitude EMP in the States, how much damage would it cause? And it's always the same thing: huge amount of damage. Please give us more money for defense. And so, but when they really go into deep analysis when they're looking at enemy systems. So then they do a proper analysis of how to basically take them out, and particularly countries like Israel has all these guys like Talpiot and Unit 8200, all these psychopaths in essence that thinking every day is, how do we bring down the enemy and stuff, and looking at their systems in detail. Basically, it's operational research. But the guys that are very likely to do this are basically the elephants could take each other down. It's basically the states could fuck each other over in this way. So it's not necessarily anarchists or eco-liberation or anything like that. It can be state actors. They could take each other down.
Those psychopaths, they published them. I mean, you posted on Reddit a long time ago a total list from the American military about all the dangerous spots and all the points of weaknesses in the system and everything. They have it all listed, and it's online, so anybody can access that.
Yeah, this free information. It's like all the data facilities and stuff for Amazon. Most of the computing now in the commercial realm and government realm, it's all on Amazon distributed. And in Amazon Web Services all around the world. But all those facilities, they listed. You don't have to you don't have to go very far down the dark web to see every one of those things. And they all, kind of low profile, bomb proof, flood proof kind of things. They're not manned, they're dark sites. But they all have inputs and outputs. They all have to be powered. They have a bit of emergency power generation, and they have a bit of halogen for a fire, and they might be hardened to take a missile or something. But damn well there's some guy that comes in to feed the cat that knows there's some vital thing that they need. Yeah.
Hugh, can I just go back to the sort of globalist transhuman Klaus Schwab agenda thing, which is, just personally, when I look at that, I think their enterprise is doomed because circumstances are just going to completely overtake them before they get very much further. And maybe that's hopeful thinking, I don't know. But surely they're aware that they're trying to, surely they must be aware that they're trying to introduce something into a situation that's collapsing more or less before their very eyes. And yet they're persisting as though this can just be rolled out regardless. And I was just integrating that a bit with that Irish guy, Malcolm, Kevin Malcolm, was it? The preacher, the Christian guy. He did his little video, and he was going through that. Yeah, where he was saying the biblical thing about the world being divided into 10 kingdoms or something like that. And I was kind of wondering, is that likely to be a way that that they will go? Was it, okay, the world will be divided up into zones, and it might only be 3 of them are privileged and get this whole transhuman digital miracle there, and the rest of them will just be left, as a place of exploitation, and then it will just shrink back until there's only 1 zone, 2 zones, and then 1, and then it will just be a little enclave and then fizzle out. But I still find it remarkable that they're persisting in the face of this. Like, are they that completely divided that they must know what's going on, and yet they're still marching down the road anyway?
Yeah. Well, so I didn't give a lot of credence to that 10 zones thing. I mean, there might be some kind of economic zones like
I was just using that as a yeah. I was just sort of using that as
that's not how they think. Well, but that's not how those guys think. They don't think in terms of landmass. That's kind of what they're trying to get away from, is national boundaries and stuff. So they think, they almost like anarchists. They think in terms of a borderless world and freedom of movement. But the 10 controlling interests is basically, it's all controlled by the banks and the financial system. And the 10 controlling interests are big corporations. So it's multinational corporations. So when they keep on going on about public-private cooperation, what they're hinting at is fascism. So it's basically, they're thinking in terms of a benevolent fascism. So you have, one world government, which was kind of like the United Nations and stuff. But it's you see, all these guys, they don't need a governor, right? They all think the same way. They all suck each other's dicks. They're almost clones of each other. So they don't need a big parliament or anything. They know instinctively, how to behave. So it's basically, you don't need space governance or anything like that, because Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson, they all like pals. They all understand each other. They all know we're all little boys having a race into space, and it's all jolly fun. And they all know if there was a threat from any side, they wouldn't even have to phone each other up to deal with it.
So it's kind of like the Hydra, where if you cut off one. You cut off one head and it just grows another one, kind of thing, or it's got plenty of heads left.
It's a class, so it's ruled by the class. they would just, decide things long range in these meetings like the BIS and Davos and stuff. It's just largely just formalizing what they do at the golf course and in these clubs and on these yachts and in these planes. And they just, there's a lot of this buzzy bee stuff going on in the background, and then it just gets sort of formalized and sanctified in Davos. It's kind of like a big rah-rah, a meeting of the cult. It's basically a big motivational session for the cult. But so in terms of a one world government, it's not going to be like Star Wars or something where they have everybody sitting, in the stadium, and then you take the podium and argue for this. These guys don't argue, right? The most thing they'd argue is like, who got the youngest girl from Epstein? Me or you? It's like, ha ha, jab jab. It's basically, they don't argue. They all work together, right? They have no major disagreements. There's nothing to resolve. They all think the same way. So they compete in the same way as everybody at the golf course competes, but like they drink in the same clubhouse and think exactly the same way. So they're not really competing in any meaningful way. And so you're not going to get a big parliament or something in the United Nations that then rules the world. We're already, in fact, there. We're already in the one world order because all those guys are already pulling all the strings, all behind the scenes, and all the governments are just, regional puppets for them. So there's not a, so all they want to see is these broad alliances, no boundaries, kind of like, the European Union, and then they trade barriers that they want to break down. And then one day when they've got everybody by the ring in their nose, then they can do freedom of movement. But it's almost exactly what anarchists want, except for some key differences. And one of them is that they're eugenicists. And they really Neoplatonists. If you want to see the genesis of all of this, it's Plato's Republic. And Plato says that the men of gold and men of silver and men of copper and things like that. And he's saying that these are the men of gold. They think they're the men of gold. They're the superior ones. And then they think we're too stupid to run ourselves. They don't. None of them are Democrats because they think the population is too dumb. And we prove it to them every fucking day. Every fucking day you go out and buy an Apple product or something, you're proving to Steve Jobs just how fucking stupid you are. So we deserve these guys. But what they've told themselves is Plato said you do the noble lie. And the noble lie is you make the people think they're in charge. And so this was worked out by, in Plato's Republic. You go back to there, you can see Charles Schwab's agenda. And they will manage everybody. They'll manage them from a health point of view. All the stuff that Allison says, it'll be a eugenics program where they'll manage you financially, bodily, socially, and economically. So every part of your life you'll be managed like a little toddler. And then then they are the ones that will be free of it. So in other words, while you need a COVID passport, Bill Gates doesn't need one. If Bill Gates was ever stopped at an airport or something, and some clueless customs officer said, "Excuse me, sir, can I see your COVID passport?" 10 guys would jump on him and say, "Do you know who the fuck this is? It's Bill Gates, you fucking idiot. Fuck off." So Bill Gates doesn't need, they're essentially above the law, but they will impose all this on us. Basically, they will say that you have to have a cell phone, and eventually they'll have to have an implant. But Bill Gates and Charles Schwab and stuff are immune to that kind of pettiness. So they will rule as absolutes and in the shadows. And because of the noble lie, everybody else will think they're in charge. So it's kind of like democracy today. They've got this big show going on where everybody thinks they're actually voting, but the levers behind the voting things are completely broken. So where they're fucking up, and why the anarchist vision is different, is the anarchists have a positive view of humanity. And anarchists don't think that people are dumb as shit. The system is dumb as shit, and it makes people dumb as shit. And the system doesn't fit with humanity. But with these transhumanists, they put transhumanism, order, and the system above humanity. They think that humans must fit in with the system. Anarchists think that the system must fit in with humans, and it does. Remarkably, if you just leave everything alone, it fits in with humans. So the anarchist thing is very similar, but completely different at the same time. It's kind of what I was saying to Kevin. Was I was saying to Kevin about, like, well, what's wrong with this one world order? Because as an anarchist, we're just trying to get rid of states. So if there's this one super state that dominates the whole world, our job just got easier by 152 other countries. So we could wait until we get to the point where they, set up this one super system, and then we game jack it. The problem why that doesn't really work is because there's not going to be anything left of the environment, and when they get control of us, there's not going to be, it's going to be completely 1984 Brave New World. There's not going to be any opportunity for rebellion, because there's a lot to that. You will own nothing and you will be happy. It's people will be unhappy, but they won't be able to define why they're unhappy. And so there'll be, even things like suicide will become pathologized, and you will get brain stimulus, and you'll get drugs for. So you have this bland ennui
that goes back to
just existing in this horrible existence, and you don't know why. And then if you ever complain or anything, they would treat it as your pathology. And it wouldn't make you better. It would make you get over suicide, and you'd have this hollow soulness in you. You wouldn't feel like a human being, but you wouldn't even have the language to describe it. And that's where we're headed.
That's that story, that Harlan Ellison story somebody put up, at the end, where the machine had reduced I don't have a mouth and I have to scream or something, was where it ended up, kind of thing. I just wanted to go back in that article that was in the Unlimited Hangout about DARPA and all the rest of it. And you said there something a minute ago about the anarchists doing it the other way around. The system is to match the humans, not the humans to the system. And one of the comments made there was by it was that woman who I think was in charge of the wellness something or other. What was the name of that? And she said that they wanted to overcome
the welcome
wellness.
The welcome leap.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah. And she said that they wanted to overcome the mechanical mismatch between humans and electronics. And you could see in that statement, the two things that you were just talking about, which was the globalists and the anarchists. They're looking at the system and the humans, and one of them wants to match the humans up, and the other one wants to match the system up. It's the other way around. So you've now got to alter the.
Wait, can I interrupt you, because this is damn important. So this is exactly the thing that I was talking to Lionel Snell about. So how it happens is they start off with, say, Babbage, doing, Babbage calculator, and they're thinking we'll put this machine in service of man. The problem is that the machines are really, they have a problem of measurement, and the problem of basically it's the framing makes them not really viable, in fact, but it makes them logical and makes them predictable. So, but what happens is they propose this as putting the machine in service of humans. When the machine reveals its inadequacies, then they start reforming the humans to fit with the machine. So if the Hilbert program got far, and this is what the Fourth Industrial Revolution is the Hilbert program, is they will start off saying that, well, this makes life better. In the Chinese, the social credit score, they like it. because they say, well, everybody is untrustworthy, you know, humans bad. And so people in China like it because they say, well, we just have to look at your credit score. And now we know who can do business with, who we can safely do business with. So it increases trust. And then so it's good. And so, you know, but as the thing becomes more and more of a catch-22 and more kind of Kafkaesque and Byzantine, then there'll be more and more emphasis on making the human fit with this machine, because it's easier to make it's more cost effective to make the human fit this machine once you've made a completely digitized and systematized world. So that machine's limitations, you will be forced to compensate for the machine's limitations very soon after they put the system in. And that's where the hell starts for us.
But the hell that you talk about, Gary was referring to the transhumanist, the fourth industrial revolution, and its timing with collapse, because we have a short window there. We know it all. Like, I mean, so I look at those nanotechnicians and not those they're okay. They've advanced a lot, but they're far away from being able to implement that in terms of and I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, we don't know, but it can go fast. I'm not a specialist in that.
No, forever. It's fiction. No, forever. It's fiction.
Yeah, I think
all
so.
of this stuff is it's magic. It's actually worse than the worst nonsense magic that you've ever seen. The stuff that Neuralink and all these promises that what the brain's going to do, it's lies. It's horseshit. I'll tell you, the automation, AI is a myth. There's no machine intelligence. You might as well get a wind-up toy. But none of these guys don't know. These guys don't know this. You see, all the enthusiasts, the guys like Elon Musk, all these guys that are making these predictions, you know they know fuck all about it. You know that he's never programmed a computer or done any AI because he talks about it in this way. Anybody that tells you, anybody that's really done any recommendation engine, any one of these systems, automation systems, any kind of this tooling or automated manufacture, they'll tell you that these machines don't work without humans. They're just extensions of humans, and these guys don't get it. They're retards. In fact, they are basically Asperger's. They're 12-year-olds, and so basically Charles Schwab and that doesn't understand technology. Bill Gates doesn't understand technology. Bill Gates wrote a few programs.
Hugh, can I jump in? Do you mind?
So line with this Donkey Kong thing, and it was pathetic. Bill Gates barely knows how to program, but he's one of the greats of, you know, he's the Yoda of technology. These guys are cretins. They don't understand this technology, so it's all fake. But anyway, you can't say that because everybody says, "Oh no, surely the BBC can't be wrong." Yes, quantum computing, all this stuff is horseshit. It's not 10 years away. It's never going to happen.
Hugh, I think this goes back to something. It connects back to something you brought up a little while ago. I think it was with the when you were talking about the glass industry and the ceramics and all the rest of it. And the point I wanted to make there was, oh yes, I think you said something about how nobody knows how to make like a complete machine, you know, because I mean it's a divided up process and all the rest of it. But I think what we got in the world at the moment, because of increasing specialization, I guess, and disconnection from people doing things for themselves, making things or learning how to be handy with various skills, is that there isn't a kind of intuitive grasp in people of how things are made and how things are done. And so they're very easily led astray by this kind of magical thinking, because you can sell it to them because they don't get it, that it can't be done that way. You know, like in terms of what, for instance, just now when you're talking about Elon Musk and all the rest of them, and your understanding of the kind of digital computer whole thing like that, you can see that he doesn't grasp. You've got a real feeling for it, and you can tell that it's bullshit. Whereas he doesn't. He's just looking at it from the outside, much as like the person who's got a car, and it needs repair, and the mechanic says it needs this and this, and they're completely clueless. The mechanic could say anything he liked, and the person has no appreciation whatsoever of how the machine works, what's involved with its operation, and so you can sell them anything. And the other side of it is, of course,
but you see, they're enthusiasts, right? They're not engineers. They're enthusiasts, so they're technology enthusiasts, but they're not engineers. They don't even understand the first thing about engineering.
And I mean,
and if they did, they wouldn't be enthusiasts.
Well,
no one that really understands technology well is a technology enthusiast.
That sums it up, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, much as there's problems with engineers, they at least get how things are done, and if there's something missing from that cycle, they're not going to be deluded that it can still be done. They're just going to say, no, you can no longer do that.
Can I add something when you finish?
Yeah, go on. I was just going to add one small thing, which was, I think this also applies to the whole appreciation of the seriousness of the ecological and climatic situation, is that people just don't get. It's an abstraction for them, and they sort of only seeing it from the outside. They don't get a feeling for it. Like if you even know a little bit about engineering and look at the kind of thermal inertia in a place like the Arctic, and just you don't even have to do a calculation. Just your sense of it will tell you that by the time it's starting to melt at the rate it's melting now, you've missed the boat by decades and decades. But most people don't have that kind of, they don't have a feeling for that. They don't get that part of it. And so then they can just run off and be in delusion about it because they don't have some other part of them telling them that this is just absolutely huge,
Well, that's exactly what I was going to add, because the likes of that Scottish, Irish preacher, the likes of Allison, the likes of a lot of ranters against the fourth industrial revolution and transhumanism are completely clueless, it seems to me, about the imminent climate collapse that's coming, and even Allison, I don't think she grasps that it's like, okay, the environment, the flowers, protect, let's be green. She's probably vegan, I don't know, but they don't go there. So they can go very deep into understanding and dissecting the dangers of transhumanism and AI and all this thing, and digitalization. Oh geez, I can't say it. Children and everything, but there's no clue about this. No reference to actually the imminent catastrophes.
Very few people have the complete picture. That's why I mean, I get despondent about these people like Dimitri, because I had high hopes for him having a complete view, and suddenly he just went completely Russian nationalist, and now everything is just interpreted in, well, Russia's fantastic, so you can't talk beyond, climate change. Well, Russia will survive. It's like, okay, can you just fucking forget about Russia now and just talk about collapse?
No, but it's the core of the earth.
Everybody has their partial, right? They have their hole in the thing. Yeah. But
can I make 2 points there? Do you mind? I'd like to make 2 points. One is just thinking about that like, if you go back a few centuries, you didn't have that. You have a lot of educated people were polymaths. They had each finger of their hand was in a different discipline, so to speak. It wasn't called that then. And also, like with the alchemists, they were they were looking at the whole, like everything from the rock to the most ethereal, immaterial sort of spirit, so to speak. And that's a major thing that's been lost, because there aren't people like that now. There's a very small number of people who've got their knowledge spread. I suppose it's impossible now with the expansion of detailed knowledge. But the other point was, I think, just going back to what Sophie was just saying about the Irish preacher and Alison. But it's also true I think a characteristic of people on the right is that they maintain a very precise understanding, but it's quite narrow, and so in a way they're very effective. But their promises is the promise that they have, you know, the possibility of what they could do, like with Alison, is completely wasted because she's got herself into her little view, and she won't broaden it, and so it sort of completely annuls her her effectiveness. The same with that preacher guy, actually. You know, as Sophie said underneath that, he made some really good points. And then he just blew it all at the end with his bloody Bible, you know. And he didn't even see the contradiction in his own logic, that if he was going to pray this away, then it would also pray away the biblical prediction that he was leaning on. And so did he actually believe in this Bible or not? Like he was actually digging out the ground from under his own feet, even right at the end. But they don't. He wasn't aware of it, you know.
Yeah, it's the problem of self-reference.
Yeah, so they're all self-referential cults, and the Christian cult, they can, because they're leaning on St. Paul's cult, they are kind of outside the mainstream cult. So they can see it for what it is, but then they're still bound by their own cult. And so they're still bound by the Bible bashing. So it's like Alison, they can see it all, but then it all lands in therefore the Bible. And so therefore our cult. So they're no better off. They're going to go down with the standard cult. But you see, nobody wants to admit to doomerism because really there are too many, it's too multifaceted. It's not a question of knowing lots of facts. It's a question of getting some street smarts. So when you get a bit of experience of the world and a bit of experience of how machines work and how politics works and how finance works, then you go like, okay, I've pretty got the lay of the land. You don't have to know every fact on Wikipedia. In fact, it's a detriment to know all of that. But you can get to know exactly how this works, and then you look very cynical. So nobody listens to you after that because you look like a cynical Cassandra. But you see, whether we're heading for collapse or not depends entirely on what you feel like in yourself. So if you just got a new job and you really wanted the job and now you feel great because you've got your dream job and stuff like that, then doom will be after 2100, if ever. If you've just been fired from your job that you hate, well then doom's in 2026. So it's got far more to do with your own, how positive you are and how optimistic you are. But what it means is that we all know that the systems, we all know that the system's going to collapse. It cannot go. I mean, you've got to be a nut like Steven Pinker or something to just extrapolate the graph. A cursory analysis will show you that there's so many problems, from demographics, from climatology, from resource use, for just fucking running out of water, and just the ecology going. You can see that this house of cards cannot hold. So what it means is that as we go, more and more people will get depressed, and when they get depressed, then they'll see the situation for what it is. So the ranks of the doomers are just going to grow and grow and grow, and it'll be harder and harder for people to be optimistic. But they get their optimism for something like the Bible. So that the number of people that will go for flat Earth kind of solutions or Bible solutions or the aliens come and save us or technology, the problem gets worse as people actually come out of their collapse denial.
Crisis cults, right?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up I don't know if it's relevant, but for some reason or other, I was thinking about Guy McPherson while he was saying that. And I thought, well, what's happened there? He's shut down and closed up shop. Is there anything behind that, in your opinion? Some kind of realization, perhaps? Or he's just being Guy McPherson?
No, he got. I think the way I read it is he got ego fatigue. He was just doing narcissism, and he just ran out of narcissistic reflection. There's something you're talking about McPherson, right?
Yeah, McPherson.
My interpretation was he was working entirely from ego, and he was on this kind of revenge trip. He kind of saw the writing on the wall as an ecologist and said, well, we must all go homesteading and do this parallel polis, and so he went off and was amazed that nobody followed him, and so he came back to civilization like a Jeremiah, saying like, woe to you, it's like a vengeful prophet saying like, you're all going to be, roast in hell, and you deserve it. And so he got a bit of narcissistic reflection from all these doomers that said, yes, I cut my balls off so that I wouldn't have any kids, and all these breeders, they're going to die in hell and fire. And they're basically, and Sam Mitchell also has that crowd.
Sam's very good at that.
And so it's all this gloating sour grape stuff, and you can only he lost his audience because he was so difficult to interview, put so many restrictions on, and the narcissism, just no one would go there. Again, it was almost the same thing as where he went off grid. Was he in social media and YouTube, his viewership just fell because it was the same demand, but it's all about him and collapses.
Well, I think that's one of the main reasons why he's gone.
Paradox.
Yeah,
I think nobody's listening to him anymore. I mean, if you look at his, it went down and down. He stopped his Nature Bats Last and everything because nobody was listening to it anymore. It was just gone. Like, I think
he wasn't getting narcissistic supply. He wasn't getting his kick.
Yeah, I was amazed during that recording of the last Nature Bats Last thing. It all started off very nice until sometime into the thing, a difficult person rang up. And it just turned nasty straight away. He just shut the guy down and Pauline came on with, you've got to understand, if you don't really like what you're hearing here, you don't have to listen, And I thought, the pair of them were just so absolutely creepy at that point. That it was just like, we will not entertain a different point of view. We won't give you 5 seconds to bring up a legitimate challenge or anything like that. They were just running off into their own little thing. I stopped listening to it at that point because you could see that the whole thing was just a complete joke anyway.
That running off into their own little thing, I take very badly. I got a terrible, terrible vibe from that. I really thought, if in the next week we find out they all just had a little party and took the phenobarbital and stuff with the Kool-Aid around the fire or something, it's like I wouldn't be surprised because it was written all over that thing. You could just, the dynamic that they were expressing there is like, oh my God, this is Heaven's Gate. And so
it did have that.
I keep on warning people about it.
I couldn't go further than 10 minutes.
I keep on warning people, is this...
Same here. I same as Sophie. I only got to that point where there was this little difficult section where somebody rang up and they were being difficult, and I couldn't. I thought there's no point in listening to anymore. That was enough. But that's a good point what you're making about the kind of Kool-Aid crisis that he.
Well, but here's the thing. This is very important. This is very, very important because the whole McPherson saga is the alien cortex, right? It's the alien cortex. You can see the alien cortex self-loathing, and the whole thing, this yen for immortality is going off grid to save us, all the cultish thing, everything I've been trying to tell people is all kind of embodied in it. Now, when When you see that Kool-Aid moment, you see them going off on their little thing and they're saying like, we're going to do that on a global fucking scale. I'm trying to tell as many people that can hear is that I say again and again, everything's a cult. Our mainstream culture is a cult. It's going to go to that same Kool-Aid moment. Think about it. Think where we're going to. We have all these positivists, these futurologists. They're going to do all this fantastic One Health thing, and it's all this brave new world. It's not going to work. It's built on fantasy. It's going to be a long, slow slog with some bad news. They're going to double down. They're going to be doing geoengineering, and basically it'll work in the short term, but it'll make things progressively worse in the long term. And it will really seal our fate. And so when things go badly with geoengineering, then imagine the Kool-Aid moment. Then imagine, we all McPherson's and we all like, this was never meant to be. Humans are not viable. It's better for what's left of the earth that we end the story. It's laced with the self-pity. And what they will do is they will try and take out as much as they can on the way out. So then it's saying like, you know what? Life was evil. It was life itself that shouldn't have been done. A pure world is a desert, not only without people, but without life. It was intelligence. It was consciousness that was wrong. We must take it out. We must erase it. It's the void, a blank slate. That's the purity. And they will try and do it on a global scale. That's where we're headed. So you're seeing in microcosm where we're going in macrocosm. And it's like, it's the deepest question is, what's the point of existence? And is it just to keep going? It's like, it's the theater. And we don't want to end our story. You're not human if you're not pro-life. And so if you go down this path, you will get to death. These guys are talking about immortality. They're talking about, they sound like they're talking about life. They say life will get better. People's lives will get better. They'll be richer. They'll be enhanced. No, they won't. They'll be more dead. Basically, life is chaotic. The more ordered it gets, the more dead it gets. So these guys will be saying, now your life is better. Look, it's more ordered. No, I'm miserably unhappy. Nothing happens out of the ordinary. There are no surprises. It's basically, there's no chaos. It's predictable as anything. It's root canal therapy every single day. And so they're killing us while they're telling us that this is for your safety, this is for your longevity, this is for your life. But self-evidently, it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's saying like, no, the thing that they taught you was wrong. Chaos, disorder, dysfunction. That's what life is. Life is messy. So like, life is in the shit. Life grows out of manure. The essence of life is all the dirty, mucky, messy, chaotic shit. You have to learn to embrace that. But these guys are like, no, it's the clean, pure, predictable, precise. And they say, no, that's death. You see, black people in Africa know this. One of the reasons why white people hate black people in Africa is because if you ask a white person what they don't like, ask a black person what they don't like about white people, they will say they remind them of death. And you say like how? And well, it's everything about us, because we smell. We don't like to smell earthy. We put perfume on. And a black person associates that with a corpse that's laid out and cleaned. That's, you sterilize a corpse and put it in formaldehyde so that it's ready to be buried. And so a black person would only get dressed up in white if it was a shroud. So the fact that, for a black person, bones are white. So white is they associate with death. Now, white people associate black people with death because it's disordered and it's Kali and it's chaotic and it's dark and it's the heart of darkness in Africa. So white people come to Africa thinking this is chaos. This is the forces of evil and this tide of shit, and we must fight to keep the candle burning in the darkness. But you see, black people think that's life. It's chaotic. It's living. It's being, and that's why we hate black people. They in white people, the colonists that came, because they represented disorder, death, Eris, Kali. Yeah, the Aryans, or universally, when they got to India, they also thought of Kali, who was considered life because she's black. Then they considered it death. You know. So anyway, I hope that paints a picture of how we've living in an upside down world. Good place to stop.
May I just before we go? You said something that brought a question to my mind, because it looks like you see that geoengineering is going to happen. And there's a lot of voices.
Undoubtedly.
Now, I hope not, but I wonder if we shouldn't slip that to faulty. I don't know what's the position of, because that is the forefront of the big dangers we have to face, and I would really like to know where he stands on that, because that's fundamental.
That's good. I don't think he's even very aware of it, but that's good. Good you brought that up, because I think that is the biggest danger we face. Well, I think now we passed the tipping points. I think we basically passed. There's so many indications that we passed a serious climate tipping point or two, and so what that means is the most dangerous thing facing us now, in my view, is geoengineering. And it's coming. It's just in what forms it takes. But it'll take some innocuous forms for kind of land management and stuff, to some things which you really don't want to do, like sprinkle glass beads on the Arctic ice, all the way to marine cloud brightening, which is like just vacuuming up marine life and spurting it in the air. And then
plankton story, like
water. Yeah, you're basically just chewing up plankton. And anyway, the vapor is a greenhouse gas. Water vapor is one of the most potent greenhouse gases. So the chances that they get it right and actually put it up correctly so that it actually cools instead of warms and stuff is it's not going to happen. And so they're going to fuck that up. And then the worst of all is SRM, solar radiation management, putting sulfates up in the water and just poisoning the seas, making the pH so that marine life dies off, and then we're in serious trouble. But so it's a spectrum where David Keith is the psychopath that, please, somebody just shoot the fuck, just shoot him, man. And then all the way to kind of like Pleistocene Park and this kind of all these kind of in Canada and stuff, they're doing Arctic reclamation and stuff, and all of that. It's not so bad. It's reforestation. BECCS and stuff doesn't work. Direct carbon capture, it's like it's anti-science. It's a violation of basic physics. So none of it really works, but they're going to be doing it. So it's just insanity on the Titanic, but it's the kind of insanity that we can't come back from. It's a ratchet.
It kind of reminds me too. I think it was, I can't remember if it was the Mayan or Aztec civilization, but when their society started collapsing from the crop failures, they started sacrificing more and more and more. And I think that's what this tech civilization is going to do. Is it's going to sacrifice more and more of the earth for more and more machines, and it's just going to keep going until we're all dead unless we stop it.
Yeah, basically geoengineering is a form of avoidance behavior, but it'll eventually get down to rip another heart out of a baby and sacrifice it to climate change. It's pretty much what geoengineering ends up. Hand me another baby, we'll sacrifice it on the altar and see if that brings down the CO2.
Yeah, feed Moloch and maybe he won't be hungry, but he's eternally hungry, so.
Yeah, it is. It's trying to make a token sacrifice and avoiding the real sacrifice. The real sacrifice is stopping industrial activity, but that's too simple. We have to do the alcoholic bargaining. Say, I'm not going to stop drinking, but if I start jogging, is that okay? What about if I if I eat more healthy, then I can keep on having like a bottle of whiskey a night. You know, it's like fucking hell, dudes. It's like you
Yeah,
need to stop drinking. Industrial civilization is poisoning us.
yeah. I need to get the Luddites
Well, on that
to.
note,
I got to get the Luddites together with the hammer to smash that crucible and save some babies.
yeah, but it's such an easy narrative, and this is what we misconvince Faulty of. It's like this narrative is the winning narrative.
Oh,
Save the
you know,
babies from the machine. Get the
maybe
babies out of Moloch's maw. That's such an easy win of
maybe
a
you should
narrative.
talk to Faulty about, you know, that talk you did with God, what's his name? Was it I can't remember his name, but you talked to him about that Metropolis movie and Greta and stuff. Those were really good conversations. Maybe
Yeah,
Faulty
Hank.
needs to get. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hank. Yes,
yeah.
those. Yeah.
What we were talking about there is it. It's absolutely it. It's hard for
Yes.
people to understand, I think, but it is the essence of it. You understand all of this, but I think it went over most people's heads.
So,
Didn't
if
resonate.
the biggest challenge is the geoengineering, probably even more than the Great Reset, because the Great Reset seems to be founded on faulty ground and just hubris. But are they kind of related, the transhumanism and geoengineering? Is it all deification of science or scientism? Because I mean,
Yeah,
how do we even resist the? I mean, resisting the Great Reset is probably moot because if it's bound to fail because it's just a grandiose idea. But the geoengineering, how do we resist
have it
that?
cause damage when it fails. Oh no, it'll cause damage when it fails. But so the resistance to that is easy because it's an overreach, and it's the point where this future utopianism falls down, because the average person does not want to do geoengineering. So you can really get a groundswell against geoengineering. Is bad enough that people will start throwing their bodies in front of these machines.
Hugh, can I interrupt?
But,
Can I?
no, hang on a minute. But
All right, okay.
so the thing is that yeah, it is a step too far. But if people go against geoengineering and they're not able to implement geoengineering projects, if they stumble, if the people do prevail against them, it puts the whole transhuman futurologist positivist project in jeopardy, because if you can't clean up the mess that you see, what they're doing with geoengineering is putting a band-aid on the problem. But if you don't allow them to put the band-aid on, they have to face the problem. So it works so well because geoengineering is beyond the pale, and so we have a real possibility of getting a groundswell against that. If there is, it undermines their entire basis of their bigger project. And so that's why it works so well. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think. Thanks.
It's kind of like a
Hugh,
chink in their armor. They have to do geoengineering to carry on their denial, and if they can't, then it's a big flaw in their plan.
Well, it's
And
like
then there'll be more
Hugh,
the image
against all the science.
the image of the alcoholic. Like if the wife keeps cleaning up after the alcoholic, he'll never see the consequences of what he's doing. The day the family stops supporting the alcoholic, he hits rock bottom and he's faced with himself. It's the same image of addiction. If you
Yeah,
let
exactly. If you keep on wiping the alcoholic's ass, and when they go out disheveled without their pants on in public, and you keep on basically putting their pants on for them to keep respectable, and the day you stop doing that and say, no, next time you go out in public drunk without trousers, we're not doing anything. It's like, oh, that's the end of that game.
Hugh, I don't know if you made this point or somebody else did. That I think there's a little bit more to that story, in that for a little while, that this geoengineering could show a positive outcome. You know, that they'll play up the success stories. Oh, you know, look, we're suddenly getting rainfall in drought-stricken areas, and dams are filling up, and there's been more Arctic ice forming this year than in the last 10 years, and all the rest of it. And it's entirely possible that they might show a short-term improvement in things. And obviously they're going to lean on that very hard to push it, to market it, to get people to accept it and all the rest of it. And I'm just thinking about that. I mean, that is a danger. That's something else that's thrown into the, because it could get a lot of people on side with it, get a lot of support for it. And then when it reaches the point where it is not doing that, where it's becoming harmful, that'll then enable it to carry on, basically doing more damage, because basically you can't get a result here that's positive unless you get a result over there that's negative, most likely is the way it works.
So the reason why activists must work full ball against geoengineering is not because it won't work, it's because it will work. It will work. If you put sulfates up in the atmosphere and stuff, it'll work. In fact, marine cloud brightening and stuff would probably work too. But you see, that's the problem. It's exactly the same thing as like Lionel Snell was pointed out in that video. It's like all of these things, they work dramatically well to start off with, and the price comes later. So they're kind of like a deficit. It's kind of like deficit spending. And so the reason why geoengineering is so dangerous is because it'll work, and then some William Nordhaus will get a Nobel Prize for saying, hey guys, now we have control of the weather. You know, we don't have to worry about carbon targets anymore. We can go to 1,800 parts per million in CO2, and there's no fucking damage. We can just up the, solar radiation management. And he'll saying, well, if here's the sweet spot. If you put up so much in sulfates, it'll cost $2 billion a year. And the oceans will be acidic and too acidic for life. But who cares? We'll have fisheries ashore, and look at the model. It all works out. And so they say the sweet spot for the economy, for humans' benefit and everything is 1,800 parts per million. Burn the fossil fuels. Whoa, we can take out LNG to nothing. We can burn the last drop of oil. This is Christmas. And that's what's so dangerous about it, because they'll drop the ball and we'll be left with an 1,800 parts per million unlivable green hothouse Earth.
Yeah, it'll be fucking Venus, basically. Yeah, that much carbon would probably turn this planet into Venus. Yeah. So that's something we should.
An all-in bet.
Yeah, what we should do is
geoengineering is an all-in bet on technology. Yeah, it's an all-in bet on technology. It's absolutely 100% all-in.
Yeah. That's one of the things I think we should press is geoengineering. Like the debt that will come will probably be turning this planet into fucking Venus, and so we got to stop that shit. Even if our hand is dealt and we're like done as a species, we can't let the geoengineering kill everything else.
Yeah. I am very concerned about
I think I'm running a slogan.
I'm very concerned about the position.
I think our slogan should be like, stop it before it works. I think our slogan should be, you must stop geoengineering before it works.
But I would be very, very concerned about Folty's position on geoengineering, because I remember Jim Bendell in his first paper published in 2018. And at the end of it was saying, well, there will be techniques, and I'm in favor of a few, like cloud brightening and to protect the Arctic and stuff like that. And so I know that there's a lot of people from his movement that are overlapping with Folty's crowd in the UK. And I wonder really what is the undercurrent and the position of Folty and his acolytes for geoengineering, because I think, like you, that's one of the biggest problem that we're going to face.
Well, it's good you raised it because it's kind of make or break. If Faulty turns out to be a transhumanist, that's over. That's the end of the game right there. There's nowhere to go after that. If he's not on Team Human, I'm betting he is on Team Human, or if I'm betting that he doesn't really have a clear picture of transhumanism and Team Human yet. But I'm predicting he will come down on Team Human because he's a humanist. Gandhi Satyagraha. He's an organic farmer. He is fundamentally on Team Human. So it would just be a quirk in his brain if he thought like, well, geoengineering is good for Team Human, and it would be easy to convince him that that isn't the case. But I believe he's fundamentally on Team Human. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to make the point that. Does Sophie want to talk? You want to say something? Oh, I was just going to say, but the success of geoengineering must be closely related to the success of the globalist, the transhuman thing, because it's where they're establishing the new economy to fund it all. So, you're really you're going out against geoengineering. You're automatically dealing with the other aspect as well, I guess. I was just saying that this is
they're all about total control, and so that includes control of the biosphere, control of disease, control of the climate, control of resources, control of us. It's total systems control, and it's the insanest project that humans have ever come up with.
But you see the reflection in the way the COVID crisis, which is an existential threat. People have made compromises to accept vaccines that haven't been tried in the normal protocols in order to save the economy. I don't see why people would not accept geoengineering in order to save the economy again. And because it will be sold the same way. And there's been a great test with this situation that we have now. So I would be really concerned.
I hope it's wrong. I hope that it would be the breaking point where people would decide that the economy, if you have to choose between geoengineering and the economy, I think that that's the breaking point. I think the majority of people fall on the other side of no. I think that nobody's that crazy, apart from a few, maybe 25% are that crazy. But the kind of crowd that says, well, look at the pandemic. It shows what we can do when we all pull together as one world. It's like, hang on, it was a fucking disaster. But they don't see that. they think it was a huge success. So two different worlds. People can have absolutely different points of view. But I think reality bites when nobody's dumb enough to do geoengineering unless they really are far gone. So it kind of separates the sheep from the goats, I think. It's a great dividing line. Well, unless anybody's got anything more to say, then I think we should end it there because this was a long one.
Okay. There was a thought I had earlier, real quick. So the situation with Faulty kind of reminds me of Eugene Debs. You know that guy from America in the early 19th. So Eugene Debs was a socialist activist, and they chucked him in prison for 10 years. So when you talked about the crime bill with Faulty, it reminded me of him. He was doing anti-imperialist activism, and it was I think it was pre-Red Scare. Some of those laws they chucked him, like the Anti-Sedition Act or something. They chucked him in prison for 10 years. They released him early, but that was after the war went through and they did all their dirty shit and prevented him from running for president and all that. And then they released him early. But yeah, that kind of reminded me of Faulty a little bit.
Yeah.
And Eugene Debs
they always do it. It's basically a sucker. They always do it. It's basically like a Sacco and Vanzetti moment. They executed Sacco and Vanzetti, and they knew that they weren't guilty. They just executed them as an example.
Yeah. So that's the only other thing I wanted to say is probably we talked to Faulty about like those parallels of what happened to those guys and stuff, so that he doesn't walk into the same mistake.
Yeah. Okay. Should we end it there? And basically, should we just like pause before we go? And just, that was a long one, but I thought we definitely nailed some very good points in this one. All right, so let's just give it all up. And just remember that it's all part of the theatre done with the backdrop of the void. Remember that we're on Team Human. And in the end, it's all just a play of consciousness. So let go, give up on any results or outcome, fall still, and rest. Om Paramatmane Namah. Fabulous, guys. So much fun.
All right,
Thanks,
you all
Hugh.
have a
Great,
safe
thank
week.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.
Stay well and stay
Take care,
Bye.
everyone.
free.
Okay.
Thank you.